Hey everyone, this is Joseph Anderson, CEO and founder of Connex. Years ago, I watched my mother lose her job after developing carpal tunnel syndrome from repetitive data entry work, and that moment really stuck with me. I remember thinking that there has to be a better way. That's what's inspired me to build Connex, a tool that automates e-commerce operations so that business owners can spend less time on tedious manual work and more time on scaling what matters. Today, we're diving into a challenge that every founder, SaaS operator, SaaS standing for software as a service, and e-commerce leader faces. How do you use AI to scale faster, leaner, and smarter without burning cash or overcomplicating your business? I'm joined by Jason, who's a vice president of Launchpad.io and head of Pega Ventures. Jason brings over 25 years of SaaS experience, advising and investing in companies that are reshaping how software is built and scaled. He's worked alongside founders and leaders across industries, from e-commerce to fintech to insurance, helping them modernize legacy models, adopt agentic workflows, and grow without burning out their teams. Jason, you've seen firsthand how SaaS has evolved. Let's start with the SaaS transformation playbook. Why are so many pre-AI SaaS companies getting stuck, and how do platforms like Launchpad help them move faster and reduce risk?
Sure. Great. Thanks, Joe, for having me on. I talk about the SaaS transformation playbook because really the SaaS model was proven out, I think, over the last 20 years. And then we got to a place where I would say in the last 2 years with AI, things have really been disrupted. And so the old playbook is broken. Go-to-market has gotten extremely expensive. Product development no longer is as expensive as it was. And so the old model of building your entire code base and tech stack yourself, doesn't work anymore. And so really with LLMs and with AI, I think that, a lot of the current SaaS companies founded before the AI era are struggling to just keep up with their current customer demands and really transform into being able to compete with the AI natives and also be able to retain their clients because their clients are starting to explore the opportunities with AI. And a lot of these SaaS companies are just moving too slow. And so really with Launchpad, what we're trying to do is help those organizations move faster in terms of AI adoption. We're also helping them with eliminating tech debt, and then potentially even building new products that are more AI-first products.
Yeah, at my company, we've struggled with technical debt. When I first built the Connex software in 2013, it was built on the patterns and structures we use in 2013 are not like the patterns in 2025. We're offering using AI like Copilot to go through code and redo it to fit modern standards. It's much easier to write test code now than it was, 10 to 15 years ago. And we have a very large piece of software. It's been a challenge just to redo it and keep it up to date. I found that the larger software becomes, the harder it becomes to keep that software up to date. And I'm glad with something like Launchpad, you don't have to worry about all the refactoring and upgrading to the latest .NET framework. We're a Windows company here. So I definitely see a lot of value with having a system like Launchpad that can build software without having to write all of this code. You've talked before about moving beyond the basic automation into adaptive agentic workflows. For our audience, which are SMB founders and e-commerce operators, what does that actually look like? And how can low-code tools make AI adoption practical for non-technical leaders?
Sure. Great question. So if you think back, 10, 20 years, software as a service was really focused on tracking information, tracking the work, but humans were entering the data and you were doing reporting, and there was some automation, right, that has matured over the last few years. Really, when we talk about the opportunity with agentic workflows, it's kind of an aspirational vision that I think we'll get to over the next few years, which is really the whole vision you're starting to hear about with AI in terms of the autonomous enterprise or autonomous work execution with AI. We're not fully there yet, but really the opportunity that is there today is helping software companies move from just tracking information to actually executing and getting the work done, right? And so like your example you talked about in the beginning around your mom and having carpal tunnel syndrome with, doing data entry, that was still about putting data into a system. Now it's about, okay, how do we actually execute the work? And then humans are in the loop to approve exceptions and really provide their expertise that they uniquely are well suited to help influence. So I don't know if that helps explain what agentic workflow is, but again, it's really about getting the work done with software.
Getting the work done. And I've used Pega to build a wholesale kind of ordering solution before. And with Pega, you can kind of drag and drop a user interface. Like there's like you can create a drop-down list and populate it from a database. You don't have to write any code to connect the drop-down list to the database. That kind of data access layer, there's no need to write any of that. So it saves a lot of time.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So the big difference is you were talking about even using AI to generate code. And so you're hearing about a lot of these platforms like Lovable and Replit that are out there that you can essentially text prompt and it'll write code for you. The challenge is still for a software company is that you still have millions of lines of code that you have to manage and deploy and test and run and operate for your client. And so the Launchpad model is really about more of a model-driven approach like you described, where you're really dragging and dropping stuff, you're configuring, you're setting that up. You're not really interacting with code. You're actually building an application really almost with Lego blocks. And so it's more opinionated, but also it helps you execute something faster and not need to have the complexity and overhead of lots of code and lots of kind of cloud operations.
Yeah, I found that a great deal of code is reusable. I mean, populating drop-downs from a database is reusable code. And if your software has 20 or 30 drop-downs, it can become very monotonous to map the text and the value fields from that drop-down to a database. So you guys have a nice kind of reusable system. A lot of the low-level code that someone would have to write, your tool can do, like a wizard. In our wholesale order management tool, we have a wizard where you create the order, then you send it to us for processing, and then we send it back. And it's like next, 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 next. Whereas on my team, we have to create this, have a front-end developer come out and do a whole big install wizard. We have to have a back-end guy send data to the wizard to kind of get it going. So it's a lot of work. And we struggled as a company to tell developers, hey, this drop-down's not working. Hey, the next button doesn't work. And I have to keep opening support tickets. So it seems like your Launchpad Pega software reduces a lot of the risk. And you can take a lot of this reusable code and just like, yeah, here's 60% of what you need. And kind of like a Launchpad, kind of, like a leapfrog, kind of jump up from there. And that's why you probably have the system Launchpad as your name.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. On target, certainly. I mean, I think, the big thing we talk about with companies like yourself, and I think you really embrace this, is it's really, your customers, you've got relationships with your customers, their needs and their pains, and you have unique IP and, intellectual property, basically, of knowing how to solve those problems. So Launchpad takes away all that kind of low-level stuff and allows you to focus on really the value add capabilities that you can build into the platform. And again, delivering maximum value for your customers and your subscribers versus being worried about moving fields around and moving data around and cloud operations and managing a whole bunch of services.
Yeah, even with your software, it's like, oh, cool, I can add a field to my database really easily. I can make this from a text box to a drop-down, and it's all kind of more of a point and click.
Yeah.
Whereas writing code, the challenge with developers is you have guys that are front-end that are good at like text boxes, user interface, and styles. And you have developers at the other end that are more like populating from a database. So you end up you have to either find two different teams or get one guy that can do both, but it's very hard to create even some basic forms in code, and it seems like your software really reduces that. Another question I had, do you have a generative AI component as part of Launchpad?
Absolutely. So we've actually got a couple things in terms of Gen AI. So on the design time, so when you're actually prototyping is a great way to use AI as a collaborator to help you build. So we have something called Launchpad Blueprint. So you put in a text prompt, you describe the application you want to build, and then our design agents will basically leverage all the expertise of our process-driven workflow experience over the last 40 years, plus LLMs, and it'll actually build a prototype for you. But then now that's where you add your secret sauce of your product and your knowledge to customize that and make it really tailor to the product that you want to take to market. So that's on the development and design side. And then on the client side, when you're deploying your application, you can embed a lot of generative AI capabilities with, we call it a Gen AI Connect rule. So it's very easy. You don't have to do any programming. You don't have to have your own, LLM keys. You just simply point to your selected model like OpenAI or, any of the models on Bedrock. And then you can simply add features and fields and processing and automation that leverages those generative capabilities.
Yeah, I know you mentioned I had a list of inventory stock levels, and you showed a report of what items should be ordered at any specific time. That's a great feature that you have. Speaking of all these new features, as you know, scaling is not just about efficiency, but it's about outcomes. How do you see SaaS companies shifting to outcome-based growth models? Such as complementary product spin-ups or new pricing approaches. How do they use your software to get like an MVP out the door ASAP?
Sure. Yeah, so there's a lot in that question. I think people hear about outcome-based pricing today, which is really The old day was, you had platform pricing, you had per user pricing, which was based on seats, but now it's really outcome pricing, which is really off of a transaction. So think of an outcome as maybe onboarding a client or processing an order or processing a customer service request. And so with Launchpad and software companies we're working with, they can easily understand their cost for processing that end-to-end work. And then based on that, they can price that to their client. And then it makes it very easy for clients to come on board because they can basically sign up and pay on a pay-as-you-go consumption model and say, okay, if I'm processing 100 orders per month, I'm getting charged X cents per month for each order. And, that's a lot easier, from a commercialization standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. Even this company, we've changed our model to more of like per usage, because when you have a really low price, you can go after both ends of the market. You can go after smaller companies, and as they grow, they use more. You can also target larger companies because you have a scalable model that goes in and out. Even in 2023, 24, we had this like base price that was high for about 3/4 of our users, and we found a 5x in sales just by going to more of a usage-based model. So I agree with your answer. Now, a lot of our listeners are founders trying to build SaaS or tech-enabled businesses. What are the biggest mistakes you see when founders try DIY full-stack builds, and how do they know when it's time to leverage platforms or partners instead?
Sure. So I think a lot of people don't realize that there's other options out there, and they often think that low-code platforms are for fairly basic, low-level types of applications, like very basic things. But for building enterprise-grade apps, that's what we've built Launchpad for. And so it is a low-code platform. But I think a lot of SaaS companies and entrepreneurs don't know that that's available. And so often they go the traditional route, which has been what people have done for the last 25 years. And they go hire engineers, they go do full-stack engineering. It could take them a year or 18 months to just get a product in market. And that's very expensive, as you know. But then getting to product market fit with all of that code and having to iterate to product market fit can be even more expensive. So leveraging a platform, like Launchpad, for example, allows them to get out of the gate faster, reduce their time to market, and then really reduce their cost to iterate and get to product market fit, and really focus on, again, the outcomes and the value that they deliver uniquely for their clients.
So let's zoom in on e-commerce for a minute. As you know, Connex clients run into complex multi-system workflows like orders, shipping, accounting. From your perspective, how can intelligent workflows become not just back office plumbing, but actual strategic differentiators for growth and customer experience?
I start with the customer. So, at the end of the day, if you can improve the customer experience, right? So as you know, today, people expect that things are going to be delivered and shipped immediately, right? And so an automation can help accelerate that time from order to shipment or fulfillment. And so that's one big win. There are other ways to leverage automations for return processes, customer service processes, such that you can really improve that customer experience in a repeatable and scalable way, and then start to automate some of this stuff, and then provide multi-channel support to your clients as well. So if they want to talk to an AI agent that takes them through a certain journey, that's great. Or they want to talk to a person as an exception, they've got those options. And so, we hear today about, the billion-dollar company that could be a one employee. And I think that AI and automation makes that possible. I think it's a pretty aspirational vision, but the point is that even as a small business, you can actually become very efficient leveraging AI and automation to not have to have a really big team. And then you can actually focus your resources on better quality products, better customer service, and really looking for new ways to provide more value to your customers.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of fear in SaaS right now that AI will wipe out categories, and even AI is going to wipe out a lot of jobs. I was on LinkedIn, and there was a fear that the oven would wipe out the need for chefs, but actually the oven, restaurants are doing better than ever. You said that before there's actually an opportunity. Can you share how SaaS companies, especially those with a deep niche expertise, can use AI to extend their moat instead of being commoditized?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're absolutely right. So fear, uncertainty, and doubt is a big thing, I would say, in the software business today. None of us really know exactly what this is all going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years. So that's naturally going to create fear for people. But I would say that The key thing is like what you're doing is really act fast, look for solutions that are going to help you get to where you need to quickly, experiment with AI, and build out AI powered capabilities that truly deliver value to your customers. And don't just do things just for vanity, just to check the box and say you're doing AI. And there's a lot of products out there that are doing that. And so I think it's really those things. It's going deep, and it's differentiating yourself from anyone else in the, in the market, because all these AI natives, they typically go through, what we've seen in kind of all the other waves of like mobile adoption and .com and SaaS, is they go wide first and they try to do something very horizontal, versus an existing incumbent like yourself has deep expertise of the last several decades. And so you can intimately know how to solve certain problems that your clients are having and solve that in a new way with AI and unlock new benefits for your customers.
Yeah, those are some very good points. Using AI to solve problems. For example, we're going to be implementing AI. We do analytics and reports, and we're hoping in the next maybe 3 to 6 months to send some of those financial reports to AI to get a broader scope. So I agree. There's definitely many opportunities with AI. One thing I like about your product is that it's more of a workflow tool. One challenge I find with many wholesalers or sellers is they have a workflow where they'll create an order, then they'll send it for shipment, then they have to mark it as paid, and mark it as paid in their accounting system too. We work with companies that have a big workflow, and I like how your tool, like, you can look at an order and say, where are these orders in the workflow? Well, it's on step 3 of 5. Why is it stuck? And you can do that with your software, and along with integrating with Connex, you kind of you have that connection. So I agree, it's definitely a great point. You can integrate with other REST services, so you really have a coolest solution, one where you can build a user interface, and one where you can integrate with other REST services like Connex.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jason, that's kind of a wrap. That'll be a wrap on today's episode of the Connex Podcast. I want to give a huge thanks to Jason for sharing his perspective on how SaaS leaders and e-commerce operators can scale smarter with AI, agentic workflows, and low-code tools. If you're a founder or operator looking to modernize your workflows and free yourself from repetitive manual work, this conversation should spark some ideas about where to start. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with a founder, ops lead, or e-commerce manager who's ready to stop firefighting and start streamlining.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe.
Hey, thanks. Good to have you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.